Hey there, party people. I'm kind of out of it. Been a week, the final shape is out, there are puppies in FGO, and all of the videos that I have planned take more effort than my brain really wants to use right now, because all that's going on in there is... So, I'm going to be talking about Dungeon Meshi, cause that sounds like fun. Is this going to be a review or an analysis? I don't know. I'm just writing words down and recording them. We'll see what the hell this is at the end. And so, fair warning at the top, I've only watched the anime, and that's not really done yet by the time this video comes out. So, yeah. I do plan on getting to the manga. It's on my wish list. So, it's not going to be a finalized review if that's what this ends up being, but my thoughts are going to be said. Let's get into it. Dungeon Meshi, or Delicious in Dungeon if you're nasty, is a true blue fantasy series that, surprisingly, isn't an isekai. Fancy that. Unless, of course, you're IGN, then you might still be calling it an isekai, in which case, seek help. Though, now that I mention isekai and Dungeon Meshi in the same thought, I am reminded of that terribly sexist isekai, Into the Deepest, Most Unknowable Dungeon.
So yeah, to put a punctuation on my final thoughts on this...
Dungeon Meshi is the wholesome salve that will heal the wounds of having read that. Now let's kick off the story with our main cast. Laios Toden, a tall man, which is this world's name for a human. He's a fighter class and is autism made manifest.
It squeezes its prey just enough so it can't escape, but it's still relatively comfortable in its clutches, which could feel kinda cozy. Did it?
He adores all sorts of creatures, especially monsters. He is the party leader, using his wealth of knowledge to assist everyone out of tricky situations, while simultaneously being a menace to society. Ultimately, he is my boy and deserves happiness. And he has a sister, Fallen Toden. She's a harem protagonist that came to the wrong anime. She is the shining example of don't fuck with the white mage. But she dies in the opening against a red dragon. Don't worry, she gets better. The plot revolves around finding her, first her corpse, and then her unbearably hot chimera self.
Whoa, hey!
She is also childhood friends with Marciel Donato, the token elf lesbian. If you disagree with that statement, feel free to make it known in the comment section. It will only make me grow stronger. She is the party wizard and also practices illegal dark magic, like super necromancy. I call it super necromancy. Because resurrection magic is okay, but the way she does it is dark and evil. And yes, according to D&D, the resurrection spell is necromancy. As an aside, she is also the most fail girl boss to ever exist. Then, for the final member of the initial party that first faced the Red Dragon, it's Chillchuck Tim and his Tims. He's a half-foot, aka halfling rogue. He can disarm traps, chart a map, and harbor unending hatred for mimics. He's the most pro-union bastard you'll ever meet and will forever be based for that. After getting ditched by their two companions, the three remaining party members opt to go get Fallon, despite having zero supplies. And so they must hunt and eat the monsters of the dungeon to survive. Laios is hyped out of his mind, while the other two, not so much.
That's gross! Ew, no! I don't wanna!
How do you even know that thing's safe for us to eat?
And that's when they meet a dwarf named Senshi, who knows all about monster cooking and taking care of the young folk. He agrees to travel with the party, and now we got a show! Are you guys ready for fun dungeon adventures with our wacky cast of characters? See Laios excitedly talk about monsters and show his stuff. Laugh as Marciel freaks out over the shenanigans and fretting over having to eat monsters, as she just wants to get her girlfriend back. Marvel at Senshi's cooking and panty shots. Get invested in Chillchuck's dismissive but secretly caring demeanor. Then, blanch at the Mad Mage's workings, the horrors that happen not just within the dungeon, but in the pasts of our intrepid heroes. The dark that lies within, the dark that lies ahead, The threat within, just as real as the threat without. The depth and nuance of these characters become so palpable, while still maintaining the light-hearted air, making them feel real, and the good times not feeling even remotely jarring, as we await to learn the next tragedy. And check out Itsuzumi! She joins the party later on, after the first run-in with Chimera Fallon. She's like if you looked at a cat and thought, what if it was an angsty teenager? And then followed through with that concept. Overall, as all good stories do, this starts out with a simple, straightforward narrative. We have our characters, we know their goal, and we're on our way. But things seldom remain simple, and this does a good job of having the complexities come up naturally. It takes the time to put the building blocks up first, go over the world building and character building to lay a foundation that by the time the party reaches Fallon, it is ready to start building up that magnificent tower that it is meant to be. And the brilliant part is that you don't even fully realize it's doing that until you're well past the point and only have the benefit of hindsight. Dungeons & Dragons is a big inspiration for this series, obviously, so I think it's appropriate to make an analogy with it. The time between the start of the story and getting Fallon back the first time is like if a dungeon master took an official, short module or adventure to ease a batch of newbie players into playing the game. The idea is to have it be pretty simple and by the books so that they can get their bearings, but with the intent of pushing them into a homebrew story afterwards. So the DM is going along, sprinkling in some of those homebrew elements without detracting from the current adventure, letting the players have time to explore their characters, making it feel very fleshed out so that it's not even noticed that this is just the prelude. The real game hasn't started yet, but it will seamlessly transition into it just like with Dungeon Meshi. Either scenario, it is masterful storytelling, and something not a lot of people would be able to pull off. And please don't take that to mean that I think that the parts before saving Fallon are more or less superfluous and just kind of there to start the story up. It's far from that. It's honestly the most important part of the series. Without the firm building of a foundation, nothing else works, nothing else matters. It's the introduction, gets us to care about the characters even when at this point, we only really get to learn things about Marciel and Laios. And even then, that can be pretty surface level until later on. Not even to mention that Senshi quickly becomes the angel on a lot of our shoulders, telling us to eat properly, even when we don't feel like cooking. Honestly, I've even noticed myself cooking and making myself food more often unconsciously rather than going out or just grabbing snacks. But when I don't have time to cook myself something, I turn to today's sponsor. Yeah, not actually sponsored, but please tell me if it was an ad for food. It'd be really funny. And if you have ad blockers or premium, I respect you either way, but I still don't appreciate you ruining my stupid joke. Anyway, I'm running out of steam for this one. This is a fantastic anime for fans of the fantasy genre, and I think that counts as alliteration, so I just got that achievement today. But no, seriously, I just really love everything about this story. I just adore stories that can so perfectly balance light and dark tones like this. The silly wackiness that can happen doesn't take away from the fact that the situation is still dire throughout, and I appreciate that. These are all characters with some heavy baggage, and it's nice to see it unpacked so organically over time when the moment is right. And there are still many more moments to come, as again, I'm not done with the story yet. So, like I said before, this isn't a finalized review or anything, more my thoughts thus far, and my thoughts are to give it a gold star. Fantasy anime is really just getting a breath of new life, and I am here for it. Though, saying that, it reminds me that I still have to make a video about Frieren at some point. It's in the works, but I am struggling to write the script. I have a specific thesis in mind for that video, and I just need to be able to dedicate more time to it. But that's a problem for future me. Present me wants to know your thoughts on Dungeon Meshi, or at least to where you are in the story, be it caught up with the anime or having read all the way through the manga. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I am very interested to find out. Do not put spoilers in the comment section, I swear to God. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit the like button. I'll know if you don't do it, Steve. I live in your walls. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time in the void. Later.